Too much attention, you know.
It's too much stuff. But this looks cool.
Yeah, it's like the triple blind test. When you acknowledge the electrons, they stop functioning.
Yeah, it's
God damn it.
Yeah, but if you think about them hard enough, then they go where you want them to. Anyway, you had a question for me about the difference, because I was talking about Greyhawk.
Yeah.
Is the camera rolling?
So I still consider myself a newbie, and all I know is Forgotten Realms. So when I hear Greyhawk, I don't know the difference exactly. What is the difference between Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms? I assume that Forgotten Realms is a little more fantastical, but that's about what I have.
I think Forgotten Realms has gotten a lot of the publicity, and particularly with 3rd edition and moving into 5th edition. 5th edition was like, let's use Forgotten Realms as default setting. It has a long spanning history made from Ed Greenwood's world. But since that's what you know the most about, Greyhawk was the one of the earliest settings of D&D. And if we talk about it tonally, right, Forgotten Realms is a world of heroes, right? Not just you as a player character. It has a ton of history of all of these amazing adventurers who came before you, and you're just a piece of that puzzle, right? Which is cool.
Yeah.
It has this like incredibly built-out story. Greyhawk, as a setting, you really are more of the star as a player. There are some heroes of legend, but it's much more sketched, right? If we think about the lore in the world.
There are books that are set in the Greyhawk.
Absolutely, yeah. There are stories that are written about it, including Temple of Elemental Evil has been published into a novelized form.
Okay.
I did read it many years ago. But Greyhawk tonally, when I look at Greyhawk, when I look at particularly like the 2nd edition era art for Greyhawk, it's a much more gritty setting. When you look at adventurers, they are scarred and covered in mud and dirt.
Medieval dark fantasy.
It is a little bit more medieval,
Yeah.
right? And it can be very dark fantasy. What I like about Greyhawk is it sets up various political intrigues between nations, and then just kind of lets you go with it. Right? There is a wiki, you can find, how different people interacted, but I'll give you the example I was talking about recently, the Duchy of Ernst, right? It's like, this is the guy who's currently ruling the duchy, here's his 2 predecessors, and that's about as much history as you get. It's like, it's little bits in there, it's just enough that your players need to know as like background.
Sure.
Whereas like if I went into the realms, it's like, here's everything going back 3,000 years of what happened in this particular area. Right? So it's a lot more to dig into. So I think it gives DMs, Dungeon Masters, more freedom when you're playing in Greyhawk, because you may not feel beholden to the lore of the realm, and it's okay to just make stuff up. It's much more like, here's a framework to play in.
And then as far as like Greyhawk, do you have the fantastical races? Can you be Aarakocra?
You can now, because that's become like part of
Retro.
the D&D canon. But at the time, all of those monstrous races were playable. They weren't in a player's handbook. It's just it was very much, it was very much encouraging homebrew at that time. And if you look at what Mr. Gary Gygax said at that time, he's like, these are the rules, break them.
Yeah.
Like, if your players want to be goblins running around, being little menaces to society, figure out how to do it. Like, I don't need to tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
Here's some basic pieces of information to like be a goblin. These are what orcs are like. These are what, and even within that, there were exceptions, but it wasn't super defined. It was really much leaving it up to
imagination,
up
creative space.
But more specifically, what does your specific table want to do?
Oh yeah.
Right? So that was where it's like coming up with consensus. And at the time too, when you're just starting role-playing games, you're trying to figure out, what are we doing here?
Sure, there might be a little too much freedom in that.
It was, but when you're a kid, that's fine. Like, you pick up the book, I'm like, I looked at the cover image, I read 1 page out of the monster manual, I think I know what I'm doing. Did you read Player's Handbook or the Dungeon Master's Guide? No. but there were some numbers. I understand dice are
No, you're
involved.
hitting it on the head.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was the same way, even with like toy boxes.
Yeah, you're making up your own rules.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like Greyhawk really caters to that.
What editions were Greyhawk?
0.
Okay.
Up through, I mean, it still exists today. What do you mean, like when did it get spotlighted or when did it come into existence?
I feel like when was the schism between Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms? So 5th edition is Forgotten Realms and...
It was showcased so when they publish each version, like when they have the Dungeon Master Guide and what's in the world, like to give both DMs and players something to build off of, they would include references to these worlds, right? They would call them campaign settings.
Okay.
And so each edition as it was published either had reference to one as a spotlight, but oftentimes, like if you look at the appendix and like some of the 3rd edition ones, it's like, here are all the other worlds. Here's Dragonlance, and this is what this world is like. Here's
Dragonlance.
Yay!
Yeah,
Woo!
Dragonlance is another topic, but
Yeah, my brain just blew.
that is certainly where I cut my teeth in the early role-playing days, especially when you want to read like a novelized adventure story that can so quickly bring you up to speed to what the feel of the world is like by reading like 3 little paperback books.
Which do you prefer between the Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms? Who do you prefer?
I am very much a fan of Forgotten Realms. When it came time, and this is when you're choosing what am I spending my allowance money on, right?
Sure.
And not only what am I spending it on, it's not enough that me and 2 other friends are pooling our allowances to be like, we're standing in the hobby store and we're like, we can get 1. And at the time, I was going to run the game, so I had a little bit more say than anyone else did, but I was really excited about Planescape, which is like really more of like philosophy as Dungeons and Dragons. But the other, at the time, the gray box set was the Forgotten Realms. This was in the 2nd edition era, the later published version of the 2nd edition era of Forgotten Realms, and that was my first pick. And really, it was like reading about the kingdoms, the wizards, and the fantastic art on the box of that first gray box.
So it's starting to like occur to me. So there's just these multiverses when it comes to each edition and which setting you get to choose to play. All right, because I've always heard the term get used, but I never took any time to really think about what's the difference between
Which term?
the settings.
Campaign settings.
Yeah, no, you hear that, and I always just assumed everything fell underneath Forgotten Realms.
No, actually, there's a lot of differentiation even within 2nd edition.
Right now, years old.
I'll give it. So at the time, I was looking between Planescape and Forgotten Realms as like, which big box set we're gonna get that's gonna give us a lot of stuff to like build off of.
Yeah.
Right. Planescape, again, philosophy as D&D, but at that same time period, there was Al-Qadim, which is adventures in the East, like very much Arabian Nights. There was Ravenloft, which was the gothic horror setting, you know, at the time, especially really playing up like Frankenstein, Wolfman, the Mummy,
Cool.
Dracula, right? As a setting, like we want to play a classic Universal monster movie as a setting. And it took it further, and I can go on and on about Ravenloft, but like it set a standard of a powerful lord having control over a domain, and the domain being warped to their own delusions, and it is both their prison and torment, but also the thing that they have control over. And then your poor hapless PCs, the little characters, get brought into it, trapped and tortured along with this guy or girl, depending on
what you choose.
Yeah.
That's
So where was I? What was another good one? Oh, and Dark Sun. Dark Sun was another big one from that 2nd edition era, which was this blasted wasteland. And the idea is that it's very
You're a wizard.
apocalyptic.
Kill the wizard.
Yeah.
It was absolutely kill the wizard. Do you know why? because every time someone used magic, it siphoned life from the world.
Yeah.
Ain't it always the way?
Yeah, yeah.
Ain't
So,
it always
yeah.
the
You
way?
ended up having these despotic dragon sorcerer kings, right?
Fuck.
It's super dark.
And it was very dark, and it played off of Dune, which was Frank Herbert's Dune when it came out. Like it had those elements, but it also was low. Magic was
Blurgy
rare,
hot time.
but your level of technology was also very low. Like it was bone, and it had rules for like how many times your weapons would break during combat. It was like very gritty. Like you had bone, stone weapons. Like if you had a copper short sword, like you were a king.
So if I wanted to play in it was Dark Sun.
Dark Sun.
You just would have to modify it to
The
have
burnt world of Athos.
5.5 rules, or is it?
I
is
don't
it
generally. When I run settings, I take all the flavor from it and kind of ignore the mechanics.
Okay, 'cause that's what I figured too.
Because you can adapt anything to whatever rules set
You
you're
just
playing,
take
even if it's not D&D.
the lore,
Yeah.
and we just
And also
a new coat of paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, as we as a society have moved on, like what we consider acceptable has changed. Dark Sun had a lot of slavery and themes that were like not palatable today because of people's sensibilities have changed.
I want to fight slavery.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
Come
was
on, are you kidding
That was
me?
part of it, yeah.
But then also there's more wrapped up in that, and there's a lot of like loaded coded language in it.
Sure.
Yeah.
But even in Greyhawk, there was a long module called the Slave Lords, right? So where people were actively trying to combat this human trafficking ring that was moving across the realms.
Oh my god, that sounds great! Oh, that sounds great. I want to fight the slave lords.
And then the other
Breaker
second
of
edition,
chains.
Yeah.
and then the other second edition setting, that big. There's even more than I'm telling you. The other second edition one was Planescape, which was the idea that we are able to move between worlds, and that way every week it can be very episodic. Like every week we arrive on a new and fantastical different world. And
When was the last time that was updated?
well, they did do that for 5th edition, and then they immediately pulled it because they republished all of the racist stuff that was in it without looking at it first. And then they were like, "Ooh, whoops! I guess we should have had some proofreaders
I'm playing a home
before
game.
and some cultural sensitivity."
But you're saying the version of Planescape that's out
Now.
now
Yes.
has been proofread, or that's what?
It was not. It got pulled. I think they re-released it hastily again afterwards.
I need
but
to
then
know
it
now.
I wonder where a lot of this stuff is.
I
yeah.
need to know
It
what
exists.
these races were that were so.
It was so.
trepidatious.
Again, this came back with like the issues of slavery, but the Hadozi people were a flying chimpanzee-like race that enjoyed the work that they were doing while they were enslaved, which is taking that
Oh,
same
got it.
narrative.
Got it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeremy
Kobolds
Clarkson.
are already kind of like that, right? In a way.
Kobolds. has-
Kobolds enjoy the work because
I
of
guess
the,
they're in that regard, but
because of
I don't know that
the
they're
way that I've
slaves.
understood
It's-
kobold religion.
To be careful about how you say it, the kobolds are fanatical towards whatever their dragon overlord is. And there's, again, like, this is when we're dealing with those issues. And also, even when we had Out of the Abyss, which is one of the more recent ones, you have people who are in chains in slavery with the drow, which also was, again, a really prevalent theme of, like, capturing these surface people, bringing them down, and then forcing them into work. Kobolds are a little bit stranger. Like when they are actively employed under the work of a dragon, like I'm not sure that they are enslaved so much as fervently adhering to a god. When they are working for other races, and same thing with the goblinoids and various goblins, hobgoblins, etc. Like it's bully culture, right? You have somebody who's strong and people who don't want to die or be punished, and so they're just going along with it.
Yeah, like broken people.
Yeah.
But that sounds so rich for heroism. Like I guess there's something wrong with me in that I'm not offended by any of that. I would love for all those things to be in.
I think
in the
everything
game.
needs to be taken in context.
Right.
I think,
Yeah,
I think
no, there should be some
yeah.
And there's-
sensitivity.
yeah,
you
and
know.
things have been rewritten, and I think especially skilled game masters have taken these things and said like, there's a lot of cool stuff in this, and then just adapted it.
Yep.
And then again, it all depends on the table you're playing with. What have we agreed as a group
Sure.
is
What
going to
are
be,
the
what kind
boundaries?
of game we're going to play.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
sure.
Sign up.
No, all right, that's interesting stuff. And I know you're running tunes of elemental art,
I'm running the Temple of Elemental Evil.
elemental.
Oh, I guess we might as well get it. Want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
When were you first introduced to that? What was your earliest memory?
The cover image of the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons version T1 through 4, the combined module, is like very iconic, and it's the opening of the temple. There's
Was it
like
gifted?
lightning in the background.
Was it gifted to you from your grandfather, or
No.
was it
No. I came from another story. I came from a household where D&D was not welcome. And if I had something in my room that said Temple of Elemental Evil, you could bet I would be on the street pretty quick.
I bet my mom would be pissed off too. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you're onto something.
But like,
yeah, the early 90s
as
was
an
weird.
adult, as an adult now, and I look back on what communication was in that time and how people got their
Geraldo.
news, right?
And
It was what they listened to on TV.
Yeah.
It was
Let's
what
burn
talk
this
show
Ouija
they,
board.
whatever talk show they heard on the radio, right? And if that's all you're getting in your ear all day, then that's all you know. So like,
Yeah.
if you aren't actively playing the game, reading the thing, and you've only heard about it, it becomes a scare tactic. Like, my mom would always say, don't open, and my grandmother too, don't open that can of worms.
Oh,
And
that's-
I never understood the metaphor until I
Yeah.
got much older. But it was like, what's in the can
You're
of worms?
summoning
Am I using
demons to your
extortion?
table.
Yeah.
Incantations.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
say words like that around my mom. Incantation.
And then there was a lot of
Fucking
publicized.
mine, dude.
There was a lot of publicized propaganda around too. It's
Sure.
just like fear tactics.
All right, well,
Anyway,
yeah,
Temple of
take us
Elemental Evil.
back.
Temple of Elemental Evil. I don't know when I first became aware of it. It was in that second edition era, but it was probably at that point in the late 90s when we'd already gone into the third edition realm of things. And looking at that combined cover. And they had republished Temple of Elemental Evil a couple of times. And they did Return to Temple of Elemental Evil also. But that iconic cover, the opening of the temple, there's like all of these like lurid statues and grinning demons, and like lightning in the background, like this gothic architecture, and you're like,
Oh, yeah.
that looks badass.
Yeah, hell yeah. Oh yeah.
And it legitimately, even though there's not really people or monsters in that image, it's like, that's kind of creepy. Like,
It's rich.
It's rich.
Rich tapestry.
Yeah.
Yeah, imaginescape. Did you enjoy it? Was it run for you?
no, it was not run for me.
Oh man, he just put you to work, huh?
You put me to work.
Talk about slavery.
Because, well,
Kadoozy here.
Hadoozy. The module was originally several different ones, so it was T1 through T4, and so the temple module that came later, it started with the Village of Hamlet, which is like, we're gonna play a level 1 adventure. Here's a place. Hey, there's something strange going on in that boathouse.
Yeah.
And then it progresses further and introduces you to more villainous places, like
That's
evil that
cool.
is pervading the world.
And they did and they dropped different maps, different dungeons.
Yes.
Periodically.
Yes.
That's cool.
I think it was 4 different modules, but the combined one is I think almost 150 pages.
Oh.
And
God.
so when you asked me
Damn.
to, hey, run an old school adventure, and I'm like, I need to do this in 3 sessions, which, based on how we're actually producing it, is all in one day. We ain't getting through 150
Sure.
pages of dungeon. This is a mega dungeon too. What I had done before we took on this project is I ran Princes of the Apocalypse over a course of about 6 years. So trying to do
6 years?
It was many
Is
years.
that the one you've been running?
Yeah, that's the one I've been running for a long time.
Whenever you are
But it
not
started- but it's-
available, that's what you're
Yes,
running?
yes. We just finished it at level 17.
I told you I've been reading it. Yeah, that's
But it started. But that was I like to take my character stories and like weave them together through multiple modules.
I love it.
But anyway, having the experience of run chunks of Princes of the Apocalypse let me understand like how challenging mega dungeons are, not just for the dungeon master, but for your players too. Because like, if you're in it for the story, and then suddenly every week we're just like grinding through hallway,
Yeah,
after
welcome
hallway
back.
after
Fight.
hallway,
Yeah.
that can be pretty hard. And in the old module too, Temple Element to Evil, like there are hundreds of monsters. I'm like, you need to really think like, were your players intended to go through there and be
Yes.
swarmed by
Slog it
300
out.
kobolds, a 224 Sahagwin, and like some
Yeah.
fire elementals? Like,
Yeah,
you had to be
that
very
is rough.
strategic about it. So in order to make it work for us, I had to think about it as like, how do we do, I don't want to call it a pastiche, but like a vignette, right? We need to take a vignette of what the temple is to give it that flavor. And there's no way I'm going to fill it with, 200 orcs and,
Sure.
24
It's
fire
not going to be
cultists
the
and,
mega
like-
dungeon.
Right. We're going to have a return to the temple, which is more in line to the return of Temple Element to Evil, right? The evil is coming back, right? It has been defeated, alrighty, and has been lying dormant.
It's
for,
back now.
Yeah, but it's been lying dormant. Yeah, very much like 80s horror movies. Like, I like to get those,
Yeah.
Evil Dead kind of things, like, we're going back to the cabin. In this case, we're going back to the
Yeah.
temple. And have these heroes go in and, just kind of like poke around. And, I very much at the start of it was like, let's have them like wandering around the courtyard and like, it's just empty. It's creepy as fuck. Like, there's still this pervasive sense of evil around this place, but it looks mostly abandoned. So they know something's going on, and they have to get in there and figure out like what's going on. And the whole upper floor, which is massive, like this, when you actually look at the map and you realize the scale of this thing, this is like multiple cathedrals stacked on top of each other in terms of just
Yeah.
volume. This temple was meant to hold a host of evil worshippers, right, for their rituals. But the whole dungeon is under that.
Yeah.
Like the temple level is pretty much, just like a bunch of orcs camping out in there and like keeping guard,
Like it's
smoking cigarettes and like waiting for nothing to happen. Just keeping an eye on the door.
Like the watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not an active place of worship anymore. So once they get down into the dungeon, that's where they start to realize, oh, this is starting to be active. There's a lot of abandoned hallways, and there's a lot of stuff that's empty and unused. There's whole sections that, and you can see evidence when you're down there. Like, there's dead bodies. There's like, not just like fresh bodies, like
Sure.
ones that like, oh yeah, some adventurers came here 30 years ago.
Must smell.
And there's just like
yeah.
this moldering bones and cloth and
mildew. And,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
earth.
pretty rank. Some
Yeah.
parts, however, have been cleared out. You realize like, okay, someone's actively using these parts of the dungeon. There's like, at the very least, they've hired a goblin crew, to clear to clear out the corpses and like
The dozens.
to clear out the corpses and like make this part usable so that as people are doing the work of propping up collapsed walls and like getting this actual seat of power, like there's the Temple of Elemental Evil is powered by these elemental nodes, right? This is what is being drawn off of earth, air, fire, and water. And what the evil part comes from is this is where Princes of the Apocalypse comes from. They are called the elemental princes. Now, some of them are female presenting, but they're still princes,
Sure.
right? Hydra is the goddess, not really a goddess. She is an elemental entity, let's call it that way. Supremely powerful, but these four are of an evil bent. Why? There's another through line that was written, kind of retconned later, as to why they were so evil, why they're doing this thing.
What was the retcon?
Well, it was bringing into the idea, and this came about with the
Free labor.
return. No, there is a mad elder god, Tharizdun.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So Tharizdun is imprisoned, and the way I had done it and I don't remember what was true and what's not and what is my own headcanon and
Yeah.
world, but like is basically within this like infinite crystal prison, like so many layers deep, but
I love it.
so powerful that the influence still seeps out into the world. And even though imprisoned for millennia, Tharizdun has been manipulating these elemental entities to do its bidding, right?
Cool.
And this is the key to freeing Tharizdun. It needs these 4 forces, two of which are diametrically opposed, right? To come together and work together. And this is why the temple has failed every time, is trying to get these opposing cults who hate each other to work together long enough to unleash this elder god.
My God. In your playthrough of it, what happened? Did they release the elder god, or did
Well,
your
we don't know.
party?
We don't know. I left them on a cliffhanger in a terrible, terrible situation. And I guess you'll just have to watch and find out where they are.
Dun, dun, dun.
Graphic.
Well, Godspeed for those adventurers.
Mhm.
Who knows how that'll turn out?
Yeah, looking forward
Yeah.
to that action.
Do you feel bad when you TPK?
Sometimes.
Adventuring? All right.
Again, what I like is when everyone comes to the table, and I ask the players very openly at the beginning, I'm like, it's very possible you're going to die. Are you okay with your character dying? Do you want to have an out?
Oh my god, that's such a weird
Yeah,
stuff. It's like, oh my
happy.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and I love this for like one shots. And
Breathe in that mode.
This is not
Mhm.
my metaphor, but I love it. It's play your character like you're driving a stolen car. Right? Don't sit there and get to the end of the dungeon with 30 potions and being
Right.
and everything magical item you've got and be like, I'm saving it for the last fight. Like,
Yeah.
you might
Yeah.
not get to the last fight, buddy. You know, if you aren't using your things, if you aren't using the abilities, like be fantastical. Blow your 5th level spell on the like opening of the dungeon. Like just go for it.
Yeah, I love it.
You don't know when you're gonna get a rest. You might not get
Fishtail
rest.
that whip. Yeah, I hear you. Live it up. All right.
Cool.
Well, I think that was excellent.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely afraid for your players.
Well, to the subject that you asked before about bringing this old module into modernity, into our current setting, if I look at those stat blocks, some things like they're gonna wipe the floor with it, and others it's like they have no chance of fighting this thing.
Yeah.
This there's one point where they come across. It sounds strange, but it is a construct, like this serpentine sphere carved out of various sea creatures. So there's like sharks and eels, and it's a trap, right? But I have to adapt it to like what are the rules of 5th edition that I can modify
Yeah.
to play. But when you're talking about TPKs, and especially when we're talking about the 2024 rule set, all my baselines are out the window. So in order to make things feel like a challenge, like the minimum damage I'm gonna do is the average, and it's only gonna go up from there. Like things are gonna hit hard, and it's gonna be dangerous. But also, and I
Do you come up with that number? You take everybody's hit points and divide them?
at this point, I still do use a lot of gut feeling, but it's based on years of running. That I look at but every stat block comes
I
with
think
an
it's
average.
brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
Every stat block comes with an average, right? So it'd be like, oh, I've got 2d8 plus 3, and okay, well that's you figure that's an average of 7 or 18 points of damage, right? So when it hits you, it's never going to be less than 18, like even though it's the
Yeah.
average, like because I want it to really up the
Sure,
stakes.
take chunks out of you.
The other thing is that, especially in one-shots, you don't want things to go on. And so for this module was one of the first times that I was testing out this rule. Every round of combat that goes on, it gets more dangerous. Round 1, as it says, still the minimum damage is there. Like, the monster is going to use all of its cool, flashy abilities whenever it can, not just, oh, it's its turn. Like, everything's got a legendary action. Like I've got 6 of you and 1 of it. Like it's
Yeah,
it's
it
gonna
needs
it's gonna
the economy.
kick off, or else you're never gonna see the cool things your monsters are gonna do. Round 2. Now the minimum damage might be the max that it does on an average, on a dice roll, right? That's the minimum, right?
Oof, make it dicey. I love
And
it.
then round 3, like all holds are gone. Like this thing is gonna wreck your
It's
shit, but
lashing
the
out.
combat will end after 3 rounds. And maybe it means that you've already done so much damage to whatever the creature is that it's gonna be wiped out. I want my players when they're at that point, especially round 3, like if they want to do something crazy and
Crescendo,
ridiculous,
yeah.
give it the crescendo. Let them feel the glory of being a powerful adventurer.
Yeah.
But also, like, when the fight's over, 2 of your companions are laying on the ground with cracked skulls, and the other 2 are like holding their insides together and being like, "Okay, we did it, we did it."
Where's the cleric? Where's the cleric? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Who did you choose to be your villain that's beating the crap out of your heroes at the moment?
So for this one, we talked about it ahead of time. I've got 4 elemental options. There's Ogremok Ohydra, Yan Sibin, and starts with an I, Inix. So Inix is fire. And so I asked the players, I'm like, what do you want to experience? And I told you, I know what I would really like to do for like the ultimate evil, but you tell me what you want. And so, there were some votes like we want to see fire. And, I can't do all of it, so
Sure.
we played fire as flashbacks. Like they're in the dungeon already, having experienced a part of the temple that we don't really see actively played out, but they're suffering for having done it. Their supplies are dwindled, their wounds are severe, right? And they can talk about it in retrospect of like, wow, we were there and there was that cauldron and that crazy, cultist woman had that curly knife full of flames and she was like holding someone over the pit of magma and like trying to grind the dagger in the throat. But they can make it up as they go.
And that's
because we
done
never
through-
actually played through it.
Okay, that's what I was saying. That's done through
Yeah, exposition. It's done through exposition.
Thank you. I was about to say
Um,
more myself.
And then we did do a couple of flashbacks, so I was able to take a moment, that one of the players wanted to play through.
Because you kind of put this thing in my head that I loved.
Yeah.
That you would have put them through some of that combat, and that and when you catch them up currently, even if someone gets killed,
Yeah.
In that combat that happened in their mind,
Yeah.
even though that person's at the table, it would be like you're shell shocked.
Oh yeah.
This person's actually not even here anymore.
Like,
what
they're
a-
not even. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not even, and we talked.
That would be so cool.
It didn't come to fruition, but I actually did ask. I'm
It'd be like
I
a
wanted you guys. I
Cool
wanted the players.
storytelling.
I wanted the players to have a 5th party member who died.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have that moment where we're all sitting around the fire.
One
It's
short.
just the survivors.
Yeah.
One short. One short of the who the team was who got this far. And that didn't end up playing out, and that's fine because there was still a lot of other trauma that happened. And I think this particular adventure is really focused on the 4 characters. It was less about me being every NPC in the world than it was about their internal evolution
Yeah.
from like peppy, like we're gonna go get them, to like dogged, burned out. We don't know if we're gonna, even if we get to the end, we don't know
Yeah.
if we can get back out.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
So
That's
it was
nice
their
and-
internal journey.
That's nice and stark.
Yeah.
I like that. And did you run 5.5?
Yes, I asked everyone to play 2024 rules, and my quick answer at this point is: you throw shenanigans at me, I'll throw them right back. You're gonna, and also know what your character can do, because in the moment, like I'm not so familiar with all the new stuff to be able to
It is a
adjudicate.
lot.
I will adjudicate on the fly, but I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly what that particular
What
spell
your
is.
features are.
Yeah, exactly.
Weapon masters and all that stuff.
Yeah, that too.
Well, I can't wait to watch the episode.
I can't wait to watch the episode. I haven't seen it played back yet.
I'm gonna check my phone and see
That's
if
what
I
I've been doing this whole
missed
time,
a
yeah.
message
Yeah.
from our friend Charles.
Yeah. Nothing yet, but
But hell yeah, dude.
yeah,
Hell yeah.
awesome.
Good work, right? As always.
Good place to cut it.
Um,
Nice interview.